If you want to improve your Japanese, just read. You've probably heard this advice a million times, and I certainly have given this advice to many of my students. But if you're a Japanese language learner, you know that's easier said than done. And because it hardly seems fair to tell you to just read without giving you the tools to do it, in this video, I want to give you one simple hack to instantly boost your Japanese reading. So let's get into it. Now, why is reading Japanese so hard? Well, besides the usual suspects like kanji and grammar and vocab, it just takes a lot of practice to get used to the sentence structure of Japanese. Especially if you're learning Japanese from a language like English or another SVO or subject, verb, object language. It just takes a lot of time to get used to how sentences are structured or phrased, or getting used to a certain style of a specific author. And if you're an advanced beginner who's just turning from the traditional textbooks like Minna no Nihongo and Genki to native language materials, the shift can be very overwhelming. And if you don't have a lot of experience reading in Japanese, it's very easy to get lost, especially in the longer sentences. Now, the tip I'm about to give you is very simple, but it's not easy. I've noticed in many of my students that when confronted with a long sentence, sometimes they panic and simply give up. But here's what I want you to do. Rather than focusing on vocab or kanji that you don't know, first try to identify the main structure of the sentence. Now, the basic form of the Japanese sentence is e wa bi da, or e wa bi o suru. Now, even though this seems very basic, when you're overwhelmed by a wall of kanji and grammar points that you're unfamiliar with, it's very easy to get lost in smaller details. Now, in those cases, it's best to take a step back and look for this foundational structure. And then you can fill in the blanks later. Take, for example, this sentence from Murata Sayaka's コンビニ人間。この世界は異物を認めない。僕はずっとそれに苦しんできたんだ。The first part of this quote follows the classic e wa bi o suru structure. Here the A is この世界, the B is 異物, and the verb is 認めない. Now the second half adds more information while it leaves out the object marked by o. Now in this case, the easiest thing to do is to identify the main structure of the sentence before getting into the details. So here the A is 僕, and the verb is 苦しんできた. So we know that the most important information in this sentence is 僕は苦しんできた. And the rest is just extra information. Okay, let's try that with a slightly more complex sentence. Take this example from 石原慎太郎 太陽の季節. 家へ連絡するために彼は薄暗い病院の階段をゆっくり下った. Now this sentence is slightly longer, so it's very easy to get lost in all the information that's there. Feel free to pause the video and try to identify the main structure on your own. Did you get it? Now here the A is 彼 and the B is 階段 and the verb is 下った. So the basic skeleton of the sentence here is 彼は階段を下った. Now once you have this down, you can look up all the stuff that you want to look up, such as the grammar, the kanji, or anything you don't know. But at least in this way, you avoid getting lost in those smaller details before you understand how the sentence is actually structured. Okay, let's try another one. This time from Yoshiyuki Junnosuke's 私の文学放浪. 外国のある詩人は詩は舞踏で散文は歩行であると言った. Now here the main structure is 詩人は言った. Now sometimes, like in this sentence, there are multiple was in a sentence, and in those cases it helps to check whether you've identified the right one. Here in this sentence, the quote is neatly bracketed off, so it's quite easy to identify, but that's not always the case, so be careful. Now this quote in the middle of 詩は舞踏で散文は歩行である, or poetry is dance and prose is walking, basically stands on its own and functions as a sentence within the sentence. Hey guys, it's Bunsuke. I just wanted to give you a quick note on how to handle the te form. So in most cases, it's fine to just translate it with a simple and. So for example, you can say
あの山は高くて綺麗だ.
So that mountain is tall and beautiful. But sometimes you have to be more careful because there's a slightly different relationship between what comes before and what comes after the te form. Take, for example, this sentence from one of my favorite essays by the author Abe Kobo. にもかかわらず春を信じて冬を耐え、夏に備えて春を工作する. Now you could of course simply translate this sentence as we believe in spring and endure winter, we prepare for summer, and we cultivate the land in spring. But in this context, there's a better option. In this case, I think it's better to say, we endure winter because we believe spring will come. And we cultivate in spring in order to prepare for summer. This is a much better fit here. Now, what I always do to identify the function of the te form is to take a step back and translate it with under the circumstance that. Now, this is a terrible translation, but it does give you the most options in terms of interpretation. So, for example, in this case, that would mean we endure winter under the circumstance that we believe in spring. We cultivate in spring under the circumstance that we prepare for summer. Now, this gives us a choice. We get to decide whether what comes before and after the te form is in a sequential relationship or a hierarchical or maybe even a contrasting relationship. And from there, you can decide what's the best option for that specific context. Now, this approach is fairly fail-safe when you're not sure what to do with a te form. Take, for instance, this example sentence from 日本人の心がわかる日本語. It says, 日本人は他人との関係を意識して行動することが多い. Now here, it would be fairly strange to translate this sentence as Japanese people are often aware of their relationship to others and act, right? It's not a sequence of events. There's a kind of hierarchy between what comes before and what comes after the te form. Now in this case, it helps to take a step back and say they act under the circumstance that they are aware of something. So this shows you that the action spoken of here originates in or is based on a certain kind of awareness. So here, a better translation would be Japanese people act based on an awareness of their relationship to others. I hope that helped. Now back to the video. So much useful information in this video. You'd almost be inclined to like and subscribe. Okay, let's practice one more time. This time with a sentence from Emmanji Jiro's 漢字が日本語になるまで。そういった凝った名前の付け方ができるのは背景に訓読みという方法があってこそのことだ。Now, identifying the main structure here as のはことだ. So the fact that something means or is something really helps. Because if you're learning Japanese from English or another SVO or subject verb object language, the first thing that your brain desires when translating a sentence is a verb. And then you're in danger of taking the first verb that you see as the main verb of the sentence. In this case, you might take kotta or dekiru as the main verb. Now in that case, everything gets tangled up. It's better to take a step back and go away to the end of the sentence where the main verb will always be. Now this also means that if you have a sentence where there's no real identifiable subject, or if the sentence is just very, very long and complex and you don't know what to do with it, it really helps to just go to the end of the sentence, identify the main verb, and just work your way back from there. Take, for instance, this example from Murata Sayaka's Konbini Ningen again. Now this sentence is just very, very long, and so it helps to go all the way to the end and identify the main verb here as nagameta. Now the object here is over here, Shiraha-san o. So we know now that the narrator is staring at Shiraha-san. Shiraha-san o nagameta. And the narrator does so under the circumstances of thinking this bit. And then these two longer blocks are simply qualifying Shiraha-san. So they're saying something about what kind of person Shiraha-san is. And then this first bit just stands on its own, so you can translate that separately. Now, I'm not going to translate the entire sentence with you because that's also not really the point of this video. The point of the video is that you can identify the main structure of the sentence even when you don't know all the words or the grammar or the vocab. And by doing this, you avoid getting lost in the smaller details of these long and complex sentences. I hope this was helpful. I also have a video on how to learn kanji if you're interested in that. I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, and by the way, I'm teaching a 10-week semester starting mid-May for both group lessons and individual lessons. So if you're interested, check out the link to my Substack below and apply today. Slots have been filling up quickly, but there's still some availability, so go and check it out. Bye bye.